in American business in the last 10 to 20 years has been the need for a change of vision. For most of our country's history, we stood independent, alone and almost aloof from the rest of the world. Well, that's no longer true. We're no longer independent, and we certainly can't afford to be aloof. We've entered a new era, a global era, and if we want to profit from it, we've got to prepare for it.
Any successful international business needs efficiency in its operations. Frequently, products are developed and manufactured using components from all over the world. Different countries require different commodity coding, and even a very successful business will find it hard to be efficient. There are separate codes for TUSA, Schedule B, CCCN, and others. What's needed is a common, worldwide set of codes.
The movement of an international shipment is like a bucket brigade. Everything has to pass through dozens of hands: exporters, importers, carriers, customs brokers, customs officials. The problem is that everyone in line has his own rules for passing each bucket along, and no one passes a bucket until it is reclassified and accompanied by a stack of paperwork. It seems that we're so concerned with the buckets that we're forgetting our common goal, and that is to quench the fire.
In the international trade, we, in the paper industry, are looking ahead to the opportunities of the 21st century. But to take advantage of these opportunities, we will need new tools and new mechanisms. Fortunately, one of those tools is very near at hand in the form of the harmonized system. It will enhance the flow of goods across the border. It will help us to identify these goods, and the 21st century is going to be indeed the one where we can meet those opportunities.
The new business environment is global. Large and small companies alike are entering the world market on a scale unparalleled in history. But one important aspect of international trade has not kept pace with this expansion. After centuries of worldwide trade, wherever merchandise crosses a national boundary, there are still inefficient procedures, redundant paperwork, and often confusion. The reason is language. Although the practice of trade is universal, the language of trade is not. Nations and groups of nations each have their own language for classifying trade goods. Each language reflects a classification system shaped by distinct political and economic pressures. Some systems are incompatible with almost all others. The potential advantages of a common international system have been recognized for a long time. Attempts to develop such a system began in 1853, but not until the last 2 decades had there been important progress. Finally, the rewards are near. Soon, the United States joins its major trading partners in adopting a new customs tariff based on a truly international trade system, a system that blends the elements of several now in use, harmonizing their definitions and codes into one.
The system, officially the Harmonized Commodity Description and Coding System, is the product of 15 years of international deliberations to develop a single worldwide system of describing and tracking merchandise in international trade. It provides up-to-date product definitions, specific definitions to cover the myriad of high-tech products invented in the 20 years since the current schedule was developed. It applies to both exports and imports worldwide. By describing merchandise in the same way, we improve the precision of trade data used in international negotiations and economic forecasts. At the same time, the system's consistency will improve our ability to enforce trade laws.
The harmonized system, what does it mean to American business? For answers to that question, we turn to the people who have the most at stake under the new system, international trade experts and executives from across the country.
I think all of us recognize that there are now global dependencies. U.S. Economic integration with the world is deepening. Multinational companies produce products from components overseas as well as in the U.S. Competitors come here, we compete overseas. International trade is now a major activity of the U.S. government and U.S. industry, amounting to more than $500 billion a year.
Some years ago, we had a tariff problem with Australia on bounce that we exported there. It required that we learn a whole new category of customs law to go resolve that problem with the Australians. If we'd had the harmonized system in effect, we'd have all been talking the same language, and we could have gotten the problem solved much more easily and much more quickly.
The Harmonized system was developed under the auspices of the Customs Cooperation Council, an international customs organization headquartered in Brussels. It is the result of a 13-year effort that involved 60 countries, including the United States, and dozens of government and private organizations concerned with international trade. The primary goal of that effort was to combine two predominant and widely different classification systems: the Brussels tariff nomenclature, used by the European community and much of the rest of the world, and the tariff schedule of the United States annotated, used solely by the U.S., into a single universal system. And the new harmonized system seems to have met that goal to almost everyone's satisfaction. The American business community voiced its general approval in 2 years of hearings held nationwide by the International Trade Commission. Obviously, the international trading community sees advantages in the new system.
Well, in today's world, where we have different systems in force everywhere, each country may have its own unique numbering system and its own definition. Now, if that product is going to move in international trade, then it may be forced to recode and reclassify many times. For example, we may keep one set of numbers and one set of definitions for our internal records. We may have to put a different set of numbers with a different definitions as we give it to our export department. And then as it moves from carrier to its final destination, it may be recoded each time. Every time this happens, you have the potential for increased costs and increased errors. When we import into the United States, we use one coding system. When we export from the United States, we use another coding system. This is merely the tip of the iceberg. When we move the products internationally, we have to reclassify for each country that's involved, which is a major project. And we're using the Customs Cooperation Council system, plus Canada has their own system, and other countries have their own coding system. As a result of this, of course, there's confusion, and there's time wasted, and there's a lack of uniformity. What we're trying to do now with the harmonized system is we've set up a centralized coding operation at our worldwide headquarters to analyze each product in detail and back it up with a data sheet, which will then be furnished to our overseas countries, and there's 52 of those. As a result of this, we will have uniformity, and there will be elimination of the traditional arguments with the government officials in the other countries as to how a product is to be classified, because we can furnish detailed information and cite the specific description in the harmonized code.
It will simplify the whole system of classifications, which will help customs officers when they see the flow of goods. Second, the definitions will be more precise, more attuned to the latest technological developments, and also it will decrease the level of subjectivity in choosing the goods for a certain classification, which will certainly help international trade. For example, what is printing writing paper? Well, before we had different definitions. Now it will be uniform. Or in the all-important field of packaging, we will be defining what is kraft liner board, which is the brown board for the boxes, what is bleached board, what property it has, so that, again, the customs officer at the border has a much easier time.
The new system describes goods more objectively. In many cases, it replaces value criteria with the weight of elements comprising a product. In textiles, for example, the tag on this shirt says 60% polyester, 30% cotton, and 10% silk. Under the harmonized system, the classification is based on chief weight, namely on the polyester rather than the more valuable silk, which currently determines how the shirt is classified. Such verifiable descriptions will make classification easier to determine and prevent the necessity of re-examining the product classification as the relative prices of product components change. In addition to improving definitions, the harmonized system also includes consistent rules for applying the definitions, rules which are part of the system itself, to help prevent different countries from classifying the same products in different ways. The system will make importing and exporting easier by simplifying procedures, providing classification predictability for exporters, and giving everyone better commodity statistics.
More detailed and accurate statistics are a requirement for success in international trade. And here lies yet another advantage of the harmonized system.
Microsoft Corporation is a relatively young company, 12 years old, and really we blossomed in the computer industry roughly 5 years ago. So with trade statistics only 5 years old at best, there's not too much available. We have looked at some of the statistics available, for instance, Germany and France and other countries. However, with the differing classification methods, we found them very cumbersome to use. Hence, to be fair, we don't use the existing statistics at all. Microsoft Corporation is a U.S.-based company with 40% of its business in exports in the U.S. In looking at the foreign markets that we deal with, we need to have a standard classification method in order to analyze the data concerning our products, both imports and exports. An example would be in comparing countries, France and Germany, we need to have independent data to analyze our penetration into the markets in those countries. Also, when we look for new market areas, we need to have a source of data we can go to that we can understand that will let us know if that market is right for us to be in or not.
In terms of data, the harmonized system provides other advantages as well. Because HS rulings will be automated and the database accessible to all customs service districts, customs offices will give exporters as well as importers more accurate advisory opinions on classifications. Broad-based exporters will find it easier to determine when an export license is required, and companies new to international trade will find the system less confusing and assistance more readily available.
There are some short-term costs that must be paid before we can take advantages of the long-term benefits of the harmonized system. First, we must convert our current data-gathering capabilities, and this means, in many cases, reprogramming our computers. For the steel industry, this job may take as long as 9 months. For your company, the length of time is going to depend upon the complexity of your product line. Then once you've made this conversion, you're going to find that you have lost the comparability with your historical database. And this may be a problem in the short term, but we think the long-term benefits are going to more than offset these costs.
Implementing the harmonized system is a big job and a big concern of many U.S. businesses. Although adoption of the system is designed to be as duty-neutral as possible, will not affect GSP or other special trade agreements, or the current rights of importers, certain limited effects are unavoidable.
We'll have to convert databases and files and retrain our personnel. Even though we'll have some costs up front, we anticipate that the savings down the road will be well worthwhile.
Retraining and adjustment extend to the Customs Service, too. Initially, we should expect high sampling rates at ports of entry. The conversion to metric measurement will mean changes, especially for inspectors. And while many product tests can be done in-field, inspectors must be trained to perform them. Consequently, the Customs Service anticipates a flood of test cases until everyone adjusts to the new system.
Our system of export classifications is very close to the harmonized system when it was adopted a couple of years ago. Second, industry associations such as ours will be helping members to understand the system through a series of seminars, brochures, and so forth. And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, the new harmonized system is a cooperative effort. And in that effort, every country has to cooperate. And if that is done, then I think the system will be a real success.
The long term is what the harmonized system is really about. International trade has progressed farther in the last 20 years than at any other time in history, and there is more explosive growth ahead.
The harmonized system is going to give us better market analysis data. As the world grows smaller and as international trade increases, as it has done, and as we continue to hold new negotiating rounds to promote international trade, you're really going to have to know what's going on in your marketplace. And to do this, we need the benefits of the harmonized system, where we know we're talking about the same products using the same definitions.
The harmonized system should take a lot of the pain out of international trade.
The analysis of the product will be very objective, rather than very subjective in the past, and based upon the actual characteristics of the product rather than arbitrary decisions by the customs officials, for example.
Overall, the harmonized system is more objective and reflects current developments in fields such as robotics, which were little more than science fiction when the last U.S. tariff was developed. It also provides for accurate classification of the products of the future. In addition, the HS lends itself to automation. Its common language permits automated interfaces within and among multinationals and among importers and exporters in different nations. The use of standardized documents worldwide will reduce the time spent on paperwork, minimize errors, and speed customs clearances. It will also enhance the Customs Service's efforts to automate its own commercial customs procedures, thereby eliminating many delays and errors. At the same time, the system will strengthen customs law enforcement activities, especially its anti-fraud efforts and special operations such as the Exodus program. Overseas, the HS gives less developed nations a ready-made universal system that makes it easier for them to trade with the world community and for U.S. and multinational companies to do business there. Potentially, this means a significant boost to the overall world economy. Finally, and perhaps most important, the HS provides a core system that everyone engaged in international trade can adopt for specific uses such as setting tariff and freight rates, facilitating transportation, and standardizing industrial codes. In this role, the system serves as a platform for launching complementary harmonization efforts, including commodity control list correlation, simplifying and standardizing rules of origin, and establishing uniform formats and procedures for automated data transmission. In effect, the harmonized system prepares us for success in the global economy of the 21st century. The harmonized system is a monumental step toward more vigorous and efficient international trade. It meets current needs and opens possibilities for the future. It strengthens the United States trading relationships and provides U.S. businesses with a sophisticated new tool for success in world market. It truly is a new tool for a new age.
Assuming satisfactory completion of negotiations and approval of the President and Congress, the United States will adopt a new customs tariff based on the harmonized system on January 1st, 1988, the tentative date of worldwide implementation. The United States' major trading partners, as well as dozens of other nations, are committed to adopting the system. It holds tremendous potential for both the business community and the Customs Service, and we're committed to ensuring that it is implemented as smoothly and as cost-effectively as possible. I encourage all businesses to get on board as soon as possible, learn about the system, and plan ways to incorporate it into your operations and make it work for you. For more information, contact your local U.S. Customs Service office. Copies of the new tariff, based on the harmonized system, are available from the International Trade Commission in Washington, D.C. We look forward to seeing the harmonized system live up to its name, making international trade easier and more profitable for your business.